Hello, guys. In today's episode, I've got a very special guest with me for the Unplanned F1 Chat. It's Aldas. How are you today, Aldas?
I'm doing great, mate. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing absolutely fabulous. Um, First of all, how are you coping with the Corona lockdown? Are you safe and everything?
Yeah, it's kind of normal life now. It's really crazy, isn't it? Like at first it was obviously really strange at the start of the year, but now just kind of used to it. And but yeah, just can't wait to go, for life to go back to normal. But getting used to it now.
Yeah, so let's just for those of you who who don't know who you are, although I don't think many of you don't know just but if you just want to introduce yourself and then we can get on with chatting about Formula One.
Yeah, well, really, well, as far as introduction, I'm just a Formula One fan that makes, videos on YouTube like we all do, and obviously we all are very passionate about it. So, yeah, I'm just another Formula One fan, obviously giving my opinion on YouTube, and just been very lucky for that. Quite a few people have been kind of joined me along. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Just rambling on YouTube about Formula One.
So because you're originally from Lithuania, aren't you? So
Yeah.
how did you get into from Formula One to start with? Because I don't think they've got a Formula One driver or track in Lithuania, have they?
Yeah, it's a really small country. The population is only about 3 million people, or I think even a little bit less. So it's a very small country. Obviously, there's no Formula One track, no Formula One drivers. And to be honest, because I moved to the UK actually like in about 2005 or something. So I've been living in the UK for most of my life. But in terms of how I got into Formula One, it was just I'm a big fan of cars. I've always been a big fan of like Top Gear as well, if anyone knows that show from back in the day. And then through that, I just got into racing, cars racing, and then started watching Formula One and then started like really watching F1 back in 2012. So I've just been hooked ever since, basically. So that's pretty much, yeah, that's how I got into Formula One. But as far as like Lithuania and the drivers there, the closest thing we have was basically Robert Kubica, actually, because of course he's from Poland, which is quite close. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's about as close as it gets for a Lithuanian driver, I suppose.
So so do you know any fun facts about Formula One in Lithuania?
I actually don't. To be fair, it's I do know quite a few people actually do watch it. Although obviously it's not a big country, not a big population. There's never been a racetrack. I do know that actually quite a few people do do watch F1 in Lithuania, and I get sometimes people on even Twitter saying, I'm Lithuanian as well, and it's so strange seeing another Lithuanian that's into Formula One because again, there just isn't that many. There isn't that many of us, so there are quite a few F1 fans there for sure. But yeah.
Because I don't know whether it's true, but apparently Nick Hülkenberg's girlfriend or fiance is
Yes.
Lithuanian.
Yeah, that's about yeah, that is literally about as close as it gets for Lithuanians in F1. Nico Hulkenberg's fiance now. Her name is Aglia, and she's from Lithuania. So that's when I found that out. To be fair, I was just loving it. That's just so cool for some reason. Like, but yeah, that's as close as Lithuanians get to Formula One is being the fiance to Nico Hulkenberg. So not too bad, to be fair. Not too bad.
Not too bad, is it? So let's what was let's get on to to this season basically. What do you think about it so far?
Do you know what? At the start of the year, when Ferrari was struggling and we knew that Mercedes were going to be like really dominant, we thought this was going to be just a total, just terrible season. It would have been exciting the fact that we're going to get all these new tracks, but we thought the championship would be a walkover and it would ruin the entire season. And whilst there's no doubt that we haven't really had that title battle that we'd love to see, this season has been amazing. I mean, so many of the midfield drivers getting on the podium. I think I saw a stat 12 different drivers, I think, this season or something like that. So many different drivers have been on the podium. It's crazy. And to be honest, I actually think it's been one of the best like hybrid era seasons because of all the unpredictability. Again, maybe not with Mercedes. We know that Lewis Hamilton obviously has wrapped up the title now and being a seven-time world champion. But Ferrari dropping down, we see Renault improving. McLaren, of course, have kind of continued on. Racing Point as well with that really controversial car, and seeing all of these drivers sometimes we've never seen on the podium. Pierre Gasly winning a race in Monza. I mean, who could ever predicted that? So to be fair, I actually think it's been a pretty solid season when you kind of considering where we were at the start of the year, we didn't even know if we were going to get Formula One. So to be honest, I actually think it's been a solid season, and I've also loved to see some of the other tracks come back, like Turkey, obviously going back to Imola and the Nurburgring. So yeah, honestly, I think it's been a great season. To be fair.
I love the Nürburgring, you know, because obviously with being from Germany originally, but I really enjoyed the fact that Nico Hülkenberg got the call up for this for 3 races, and I was really gutted that he didn't get a season. He didn't get a seat this season. Um, but do you think he can make a comeback in Formula One next year?
I think, to be honest, if he does for next year, I think it will be at Red Bull most likely, because I think when it comes, all the teams are pretty much, all of their seats are taken. I think the only ones are Alfa Romeo. Oh no, Alfa Romeo, of course, are confirmed with Kimi Raikkonen and Giovinazzi, and Haas are still available. But I think everyone knows that it's going to be Schumacher and Mazepin there next year. So if he is, then it's probably going to be with Red Bull. But yeah, that seat is totally up in the air. So I don't think Nico Hulkenberg is going to make a comeback in 2021. I'd be very surprised. Although at the same time, there's a lot of rumors that Max Verstappen actually wants Nico Hulkenberg alongside him at the team. So yeah, I don't think I'd love to see Nico back, because I definitely think he was one of those drivers that didn't deserve to go. He didn't deserve to get left out, and he's done, when he stepped in, like, the racing point at the last second, he did a fantastic job. Like, I think scored points in both the races he's actually started. So yeah, he's a phenomenal driver, no doubt about it. Very versatile, lots of experience. Has a Lithuanian fiance, so that's always a bonus.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think it's going to be tricky for him to get onto the grid. But if he does, it's going to be with the Red Bull, and what a comeback story that would be. But yeah, I think it's going to be tricky for Nico Hulkenberg.
Yeah, because I think you, however, I think you said you would prefer. What I don't know whether you said you would prefer, but you sort of said, you made a video about Sergio Perez going to Red Bull. So out of the two, I mean, Sergio Perez is on your side of it. I mean, do you actually prefer Sergio Perez to get that seat, or do you are you just did you just make that video because of sort of did you do you actually rumors?
Yeah, I do. No, to me, obviously, when it comes to the Red Bull seat, I don't think Alexander Albon. It's so tricky for Red Bull. It's such a complex situation in terms of who goes in that seat. But no, when I made that video, I genuinely believe that the best man for Red Bull in the short term, in just the next year, is Sergio Perez. Because when it comes, I think the three drivers right now that are looking to kind of be in that seat is Alex Albon, Nico Hulkenberg, and Sergio Perez. And to me, if Red Bull are serious about fighting for a title, at least in the short term, because Formula One changes so quickly, I do think that Sergio Perez is the best option, because I feel like Alex Albon, even if they give him the seat next year, it's not like all of his problems are going to be solved and he's going to be all of a sudden comfortable with that car. I still think he needs to develop a little bit more, maybe in a lower down team like Alpha Tauri. And then when it comes to the more experienced drivers like Hulkenberg and Perez, I take a very kind of just factual view on it. I think Sergio Perez is the better driver, and I think he could do the better job. But don't get me wrong, seeing Nico in that seat would also be amazing. But if I was Red Bull, Sergio is the better driver. He's going to push Max Verstappen. He's got podiums. Nico is kind of, he's never been able to get that podium, and he's definitely been in the, he definitely had the opportunity to get it. So from a Nico versus Sergio kind of like choice, Sergio Perez is my number one guy, because he's the better driver that will take Red Bull further, in my opinion. But Nico can do a great job in there, no doubt. And if he does get hired, he will do a fantastic job. I have no doubt about it. But I think Sergio is the better choice.
I mean, for me, I'm a massive Nico fan. In fact, his management is the only management that I actually got in touch with, or wrote a letter to ask him whether he would consider coming on the show, on this, do an episode with me, because that would be just awesome. And actually, I think you actually look a bit like him, don't you, as well?
I do, yeah. A lot of people say Gordon Ramsay, Nico Hulkenberg, and Sergio Perez. I think it's the hair, to be honest. I think it's just, but yeah, I mean, Nico Hulkenberg is a pretty decent looking guy, so I can't, even say anything. I don't mind that, to be fair.
So, what do you think the future of test and reserve drivers are gonna be? Because I think the teams need to learn from this year. And do you think it's going to change for next year or the future?
Yeah, well, obviously it depends with how like all of the Corona stuff kind of goes, but I do definitely think that like test and reserve drivers are almost like more important than they have been over the past, 10, 15 years because they do have a genuine opportunity if something does go wrong, if someone does test positive to jump into that car. I mean, obviously we don't want to see any driver test positive, but the teams have to be ready. They have to put in those precautions and also get a good driver as well. You need someone that's going to come in and do a good job like Nico Hulkenberg did at Racing Point. So yeah, obviously, coronavirus is not just going to disappear overnight. So I think the teams are definitely going to be more prepared next year with, definitely a firm choice. Maybe the drivers already being there the reserve drivers being at every single race with them. So if there is any very late kind of positive COVID test, they can just jump in straight away because with Nico Hulkenberg, everything was very last minute. And even in Germany, they got very lucky because obviously he lives in Germany and he was doing a bit of work with, I think it was RTL or some like
Yeah,
German
RTL.
uh, yeah, so they got very lucky because if it had been in another country, he wouldn't have been able to just drive over, and kind of be take part in the weekend. So yeah, they got a little bit lucky there, but I think the teams are definitely more prepared now because they know it's a real possibility.
So yeah, I agree with you. And I mean, do you think? I mean, Nico has already he said that he wouldn't be interested in a reserve driver job. But I think in Germany they call him the firefighter like because he's jumped in for 3 times. Um, and he was actually meant to race. He was coming very close to racing for Red Bull. Um, because Alex Albon had an inconclusive test or something. Um, so
Probably, yeah.
um, but in general, how do you think now that we've wrapped up the season with Lewis Hamilton winning the championship? How do you think he's done, and how do you think the season in general has played out?
Well, when it comes to Lewis Hamilton, I mean, obviously, again, we'd love to see. I actually don't mind Lewis winning the title. I wouldn't mind if Lewis won the next 5 titles, but what I want to see more than anything else is a title battle. But at the end of the day, that's out of Mercedes' hands. They can only do the best that they can, and they've definitely done that. I think they've got pole position in almost every single track, bar the last one, when, of course, Lance Stroll. So they were on a run to get pole in every single circuit this season, which would have been nuts. And I think the only times that they haven't won the race was with Pierre Gasly in Italy and then Max Verstappen, I think once. I think it was at the 70th anniversary Grand Prix. So from their perspective, they're doing everything they need to do. Lewis Hamilton has been almost flawless, bar maybe a few little mistakes like crashing into Albon at the beginning of the year. But other than that, I mean, he's right in his prime. He's got a great car, obviously. And the thing that it's just disappointing that Red Bull still haven't turned up. It's just disappointing that even Ferrari have just dropped off the face of the earth as well. So yeah, that's the one thing when I look back, Mercedes, they can only do their best. And it's not like they have to slow down. That's not their job. They just speed up and do the best job that they can. And I feel like that's exactly what they've done. I've been a little bit disappointed in Valtteri Bottas. He's done the best job he can, but he's just not good enough to challenge for the title against Lewis Hamilton, especially on the Lewis that we're seeing right now, who's just at his absolute peak. But Valtteri also taking a few wins as well. So it's been a strange season. Up top, there's not really much to talk about. Lewis Hamilton's won the title. Was it Valtteri Bottas has won a few races and Mercedes have dominated. But again, this season, I feel like it's been the midfield. That has been the place to watch in terms of the Ricardos, the Norrises, the Sciences, and the Leclercs. So, yeah, but hopefully, hopefully someone takes a jump up next year and we can get a bit more of a title fight between Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton, and someone else.
Do you think Mercedes are regretting the fact that they didn't they've signed up Valtteri Bottas so fast because at one stage it looked like George Russell was going to be kicked out of Williams.
Yeah, I'm very mixed with that signing. I was very mixed when it was announced that Valtteri Bottas was going to stay on for another year. And the problem for Valtteri is that ever since he's been at Mercedes, he's only ever got the 1 year contract. It's 1 year extension every single time. So there's not a lot of job security, but you're not going to say no to a Mercedes, car, are you? But yeah, I was very disappointed that they didn't take George Russell because I thought it would have been it all depends actually on Lewis Hamilton's future and how long he wants to stay. Because if he's staying at Mercedes for another 3, 4, 5 years, then for sure I feel like Valtteri. I understand that signing because obviously if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And again, they dominated the championship, so can you really kind of argue against it? But if Lewis Hamilton is thinking of leaving in the next 2, 3 years, maybe 3 years max in Formula One, I think it would have been the perfect time to take George Russell in 2021 and kind of have him develop kind of the team developed around him and definitely got him comfortable in the team and in the car with the regulations staying the same next year before the big change in 2021. Because now, if they sign him in 2022, if they sign him, the brand new regulations are coming in. He's not going to be as comfortable with the team and as comfortable with the car. So it might be a bit of a problem. So I feel like, they have missed a little bit of a trick, maybe not signing him, but at the same time, I mean, Mercedes are going to finish 1-2. They're going to dominate the championship. So is it really also a bad signing to sign Valtteri? And he is a decent driver, but I would have loved to have seen. I want to see George Russell in that Mercedes versus Lewis Hamilton because that is going to be a very spicy battle.
Yeah, I think, but what I think. I think Hülkenberg is going to get the Red Bull seat, and I think as long as Lewis Hamilton is at Mercedes, Bottas is going to be his water boy. And the reason why I say that is because Max Verstappen has got more clout or more aggressiveness, shall I say. He gets what he wants in Red Bull, and I believe he is the first one to actually do that. Whereas before, Red Bull have always done what they want, and now they actually listen to Max Verstappen, and I cannot see Lewis Hamilton accepting anybody else other than George Russell in the team, because he is comfortably beaten Bottas, and I don't think Lewis Hamilton would be too happy if George Russell comes along and sort of fights him for wins the podiums.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, Lewis Hamilton has always said that he doesn't care who's in the car next to him. Like, he's always said that throughout his entire career. There's this speculation that Max maybe wants Hülkenberg and he's pulling quite a few strings at Red Bull. But Lewis has never minded. To be fair, I think Lewis is like the greatest of all time. So it doesn't matter who you put in that car next to him. I think he will beat him. But at the same time, I think he's very comfortable where he is now, obviously with Valtteri. But if George Russell comes in, I still expect Lewis Hamilton to get the better of him. I feel like with George, it's going to take maybe a season or two before he's really challenging Hamilton. Of course, when it comes to Hamilton versus Verstappen in the same car, that's a whole different conversation. And hopefully, we do want to see that title fight. And that is why it's just more frustrating that Red Bull still haven't been able to give Max even a car half capable of challenging for a title. They get like maybe 2 or 3 wins a season, maybe 4 on a good one. But, it's all down to Red Bull, because when we do get that title fight between Verstappen and Hamilton, that is going to be just amazing. And hopefully it will settle all of the debates, the Hamilton versus Verstappen debates, because, I think that's what we're looking forward to most.
Yeah, but what do you think? How long do you reckon Lewis Hamilton is still going to be in Formula One? Because he hasn't signed a contract, actually.
Yeah, I just find it so hilarious. I mean, he's just won his 7th world title. A team, he's going to win more than 10 Grand Prix this season, driving a car that is easily the best on the field, and he still doesn't have a contract for next year. So, I feel like he's going to re-sign. I'm going to predict like a 2-year deal, I think, with Mercedes. I'm not going to say anything more than that, because at the same time, Lewis Hamilton is just so mercurial that he could do anything he wants. Like, he could leave and I wouldn't even be surprised. I've made a video actually to say, if he did announce his retirement, I wouldn't even be surprised, because he's got so many other projects going on. But I expect him to sign a 2-year deal with Mercedes and continue on with Toto Wolff as well, also signing a 2-year deal. But Lewis Hamilton, how can you walk away from Mercedes? I mean, surely not.
But let's play devil's advocate. Let's play devil's advocate, and let's say both of them decide, have a pizza, and because that's what they like doing, and decide, oh, you know what, Lewis, we're not gonna. I don't fancy doing this job anymore, right? and then Lewis says, Toto, if you walk, I walk, right? Who would you put in?
Wow. Well, I mean, there's only one answer. Like, if Lewis Hamilton does leave, and also Toto Wolff as well, and I do actually agree with you there. I feel like their futures are interlinked. You know, if Toto walks, I feel Lewis will walk. So yeah, they're definitely very close together. They come as a pair, in my opinion. But if Lewis does leave, Mercedes are gonna go absolutely all out and go for Max Verstappen. You know, it doesn't matter what clause he has in his contract, doesn't matter what it is, they're gonna break it, even if they have to pay Red Bull X amount of money. They're going to get Max Verstappen in that Mercedes for 2021 if Lewis Hamilton does walk. And I don't really see anyone else kind of fitting in. I feel like Mercedes are going to go all in on Max Verstappen. But again, that's, you know, obviously playing with devil's advocate. Other than Max, they're just, I don't really see Mercedes going after anyone else, to be honest, because everyone is just tied down brand new deals. You know, Ricardo's going to a new team, Sainz is going to a new team, Vettel's going to a new team. Verstappen is the only one that he's still at Red Bull, so maybe they can do something with his contract if Lewis leaves. And could you imagine Verstappen in a Mercedes in 2021? That is just, oh,
Yeah.
that'd be incredible. I mean, I think Verstappen would jump at the chance to be in that Mercedes for next year.
Don't call me crazy. Well, actually, you can call me crazy, but don't forget we finished the Grand Prix season on the 15th of December, I think, right? Because the Friday is the 13th of December, and that makes the Sunday the 15th of December, if I'm not very much mistaken. And that only leaves 2 weeks to the end of the year, and Lewis Hamilton, they've already said, Mercedes have already said they need a decision by the end of the year. So I wouldn't sort of count it out.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, when it comes to Lewis Hamilton, Mercedes are going to wait as long as they have to, even if it's like the night before Australia, you know, in 2021, they're going to wait as long as they have to get Lewis Hamilton's signatures. I don't think it's a matter. I don't think the time is more the issue. It's just about. I think he's going to sign the contract after the season. I think he's said something like that, or I read somewhere that him and Toto are really going to sit down after the season's finished. Which I mean, I still don't kind of understand, to be honest, because you know he's won the championship, they've won the constructors, everything's kind of sorted. The last 3 races are just kind of like, let's go out and see how much we can win by. But yeah, again, it's just I just can't imagine Hamilton leaving. You know, Mercedes, as I said, they'll wait as long as they'll have to. But yeah, it's just I could not see Hamilton leaving.
Yeah, and like I just want to get your opinion on Alex Albon and how Red Bull have treated like him, because for some reason they've waited a lot longer than what they have waited with other Red Bull drivers. So why do you think that is? Do you actually think that we could see him in the Red Bull next year?
Do you know what? I mean, a few weeks ago, I thought he was certainly, you know, he was going to go out. But to be honest, I'm kind of leaning towards actually seeing them actually keep him on, because for Red Bull, they can take as long as they want, because all of the drivers, you know, the cards are in their hand at the moment. The drivers, you know, Sergio Perez is not going anywhere. Nico Hulkenberg is not going anywhere as well. So Red Bull can take as long as they want. And of course, Albon is also not really going to go anywhere. So yeah, it's down to them when they want to sign the driver. And I feel like they haven't announced anything because they want to give Albon the rest of the season to at least, you know, if they announce, you know, before the last race that he's getting dropped, his confidence is just going to completely disappear for the last, you know, 3-4 races. So I feel like they're maybe stringing him along towards the end of the season, but at least they're giving him hope. And to be honest, I actually, if he does have a decent-ish last 2 races, I could genuinely see them just kind of keep him on in 2021 for him to keep on developing at Red Bull, even if he's going to continue on to struggle, because maybe that will be the season where he just kind of, everything will pick up. Because at the same time, there's also a lot of, obviously, AlphaTauri is going to have Pierre Gasly in there, and people are thinking that Yuki Tsunoda is going to step in. So where does Alex Albon go? So maybe for Red Bull, they're just thinking, you know, let's just bite the bullet and just keep Alexander Albon, you know, let's keep everything the same. Albon at Red Bull, and then have Yuki and Pierre Gasly at AlphaTauri for next year. So, yeah, for some reason, I just keep thinking that maybe they are just going to keep him. But at the same time, I feel like Sergio Perez is, if they want to challenge for a title or at least be better next year, right now, then I feel like Sergio Perez is still the better option. But I actually wouldn't be surprised to see them keep Alexander Albon and have faith in their young drivers.
Yeah, but that would be first, wouldn't it? But,
Yeah, well, I mean, at the same time, at least they've given their drivers the opportunity because there's so many things about Mercedes and Ferrari. They don't give their drivers that many chances to be in a top team. When you think about Red Bull, they actually do. Kvyat got the jump up, Ricardo did, Pierre Gasly got a chance at Red Bull, Alexander Albon. So they do have trust in their young drivers. It's just about sometimes maybe it's too much trust in the sense that it's too much too fast and they need to develop a little bit more in Alpha Tauri or Toro
yeah.
Rosso as it was at the time. So yeah, it's honestly really tricky for Red Bull, and it's kind of lose in the fan sense because they always just seem to get it wrong. So it's a tricky one for sure.
So yeah, and we're moving on from Red Bull. Do you what was your first reaction when you read or heard that Honda was going to leave Formula One?
Yeah, that was a big shock, to be fair. I did not see that coming, although at the same time, I remember last year, I think they only signed a 2-year extension contract, which for an engine partner is not that much. That's really not good. So yeah, there was definitely, Honda were not sure, and to actually see them leave like Formula One and leave Red Bull, that's really not, from the Honda and Red Bull side, it's one thing, but for Formula One to only have 3 engine manufacturers for next year, Mercedes, Ferrari, and Renault, not from next year, but from the year after, that's really not good. So yeah, obviously Red Bull are now scrambling to try and acquire the IP to that engine so that they can keep on making it in a different form. And I think that is really important. That is absolutely key for Formula One because we can't have just 3 engine manufacturers. That's just not good enough. So we need to, even though Honda are departing, we need to have 4 engine manufacturers, and Red Bull need to do everything they can. And Formula One also need to support Red Bull, and all of the other teams also need to support Red Bull as well for the better of the sport. But yeah, there's a lot of things at play with that. So I was very shocked, and it's really bad news that Honda are leaving. But hopefully, we can still remain with that engine in Formula One past 2021.
Because I'm thinking, yeah, I agree with you, but I'm thinking Red Bull could leave, and the reason why I'm saying that is because what if we don't get the engine free? We don't get the engine freeze, and Red Bull can't have they've already said they can't put as much money into developing the engine. So if we don't get the engine freeze, then potentially we're gonna lose Red Bull.
Yeah, I mean, and then it literally will just be Mercedes at the top, won't it? It'll just be Mercedes and then everyone else. No, I can't. Honestly, I cannot believe if Red Bull actually left, that would be really bad. Like that just can't even be an option. That's what's really important about the other teams coming together and Formula One making the other teams come together if they don't want to keep Red Bull in, to make sure they do have an engine, to make sure we do have 4 power units in 2022. It's so important now that Formula One kind of put the teams and their kind of egos aside for what's best for the sport. Because if Red Bull leave, that is a massive, massive loss to Formula One, not just in terms of the on track and losing, a really great team, but even commercially as well. Red Bull do so much for Formula One outside of the racing side in terms of promotional stuff, and just whenever they need a car at a brand new circuit or need to do some promotional stuff, Red Bull are always happy to do it. So yeah, I can't. That would just yeah, no, I can't see Red Bull leaving. I mean, Formula One would need to make sure that Red Bull do stay because Red Bull are an integral part of Formula One.
Yeah, I mean, what would the likes of you and me do if Formula One suddenly dies?
I don't even want to think about that.
No, but like going back to the thing, the driver changes and cockpit changes. Like, I would really love your opinion on the Ferrari and Sainz move, because do you think Sainz is actually regretting the Ferrari move?
I've actually thought a lot about this over the past few weeks, and at the same time as I do think that it looks like it's going to be a step down, Ferrari always have they always have the ability to just turn it around over one season. The problem for them is that there's not going to be a lot of upgrades. There's only a certain amount of upgrades that you can bring to the car in terms of the major packages, and they need an engine. There's already reports that they are working very heavily on their power unit for 2021. And that's the thing, as bad as it looks now, I'm actually going to kind of be on Sainz's side for this one. I think Ferrari, they do have the ability to go, to kind of have a massive jump up. And at the end of the day, he's going to a manufacturer team, when they are in charge of absolutely everything. He's got a very tricky teammate there. I don't know. From the Ferrari side, I always thought that Daniel Ricciardo would have been the better option because Sainz and Leclerc are two very interesting personalities. Sainz is Sainz is not a number two driver. He's a very alpha male, as we saw, even up against
Yeah.
Max Verstappen. So how is that dynamic going to work? I don't know. But certainly from Sainz, even though a lot of people might think that it looks like a bad move now, I still have the feeling that Ferrari can turn it around, and it might even look like a really good move in 2021 and then 2022 because he's got a 2-year contract. So yeah, I'm gonna be on Carlos Sainz's side. I don't think he's regretting it. He's certainly not happy with where Ferrari are now, but Ferrari are one of those teams that have the ability to turn it around over the course of one season. So yeah, it's all down to them.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. And what do you think about the fact that Daniel Ricciardo is decided to move to McLaren, and all of a sudden Renault are pumping in the podiums?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, obviously with Carlos moving from McLaren to Ferrari, maybe he's regretting it. When Ricciardo's moving from Renault to McLaren, maybe he's now regretting it. I don't think anyone really knows what it's going to be like next year. It's easy to say now, who looks best, but I think it's just going to be super close. That's why I think at the end of the day, a manufacturer team, that's why it's going to be so exciting next year, because Racing Point are going to obviously become Aston Martin. They're going to have the Mercedes upgrades from this year. Ferrari are a manufacturer team, so they're always in charge of their own destiny. McLaren are looking really good, and they're getting Mercedes power units next year, so that's amazing. And then you have Renault, again, a team that is really kind of just, especially over the course of 2020, they've just got better and better and better, and obviously now have 2 podiums with Daniel Ricciardo, so everyone is looking like they're just improving. And of course, who's going to get left out in 2021? We don't know. So I think it's too early to say. It's so difficult to call whether Carlos or Daniel are regretting their moves. But certainly, I think for Renault, I want to see them back up there because they're a team that I actually quite like. And of course, Fernando Alonso returning in 2021.
Yeah, that was the next question I was going to ask you. What do you think Fernando Alonso can do?
Fernando Alonso, do you know what? There is a million answers to that question. He could come in and Renault could make, again, a massive jump up. Maybe they could be challenging for race wins and maybe not a championship next year. That'd be, I think, too much. But Fernando Alonso is one of those guys that you can never count him out. I know that he's, getting a little bit older now. I think he's like 39 years old or 38 or something.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Definitely at the latter point in his career. He's got maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years max, right at the top of his peak. So he's done a lot of winning as well outside of Formula One. So he's coming in fresh, he's coming in prepared, he's coming in focusing on 2022. He has already said that he doesn't care about 21. That's the last year of the regulations. Renault are not really going to be able to do anything there. He's looking forward to the brand new regs. I'm excited. I'm a big Fernando fan because he's just a really great racer. He's always headlined. He's box office. He makes controversy, and I absolutely love that. But at the end of the day, he's just a great driver who I think will be an amazing match for Esteban Ocon. So yeah, never discount Fernando Alonso, and certainly Renault are looking like they're going up. So that's good as well.
I mean, it's like, I don't know whether you saw, but I've made a video where I discussed, gave my opinion on whether they having Fernando Alonso coming back to Renault for the 3rd stint now is actually a good thing or a bad thing for the company. Because I think, yes, if it goes well, then yes, they can do it. Yeah, if he challenges for title, if he challenges for wins and podiums, then yes, fair enough. But if they suddenly not challenging for the top 3, we might see like what we had at McLaren and GP2 engine. So, and I also worry for Esteban Ocon's future. So, what do you think about Esteban Ocon?
Yeah, Esteban Ocon, he's definitely started 2020 slowly. I think he's actually gotten a lot better over the past few races, but he's also been super unlucky with so many reliability issues. I remember he was doing quite well in Imola and got an issue there, got spun out after actually a pretty decent qualifying in the last race in Turkey. I remember also in Mugello, he had a reliability issue there. So he's been a little bit unlucky, but I feel like he's improved a lot. But he's going to have to step his game up for 2021 because Fernando Alonso, even at 38, 39, I forget how old he is, Fernando Alonso is no joke. He's going to have, I like the way Martin Brundle put it, he's going to have Esteban Ocon driving on his roof. That's how good Fernando is. So he's going to have to make that jump up because if he doesn't, I think he could definitely lose his seat in 2022. Again, Formula One changes so fast. There are so many great drivers looking for seats. I could see, Pierre Gasly, if Esteban Ocon doesn't do well enough, I could see Pierre Gasly in that Renault for 2022 alongside Fernando Alonso. So, yeah, but I feel like Esteban is a decent driver. I feel like underrated by some people, but also maybe a little bit overrated by some others. But overall, I feel like he's a very solid driver. So I do expect him to take that jump up again because, of course, it's his first year back after missing out on Formula One in 2019. So, yeah, but how's that driver dynamic going to go? Ocon Alonso with Cyril Abiteboul there as well.
Yeah,
that's going to be something to look out for.
I still can't understand his reasoning behind it, and I asked Will Buxton the same question, because what has he got to prove? It's like, as I said before, if it didn't work out with your ex-girlfriend for 2 times, after 2,
come back a 3rd time.
Yeah, but what's his motivation to come back with Renault?
I feel like for Fernando, I actually understand his motivation because when he left Formula One, he left with everyone doubting him. He left racing at the back of the grid when he was still, in my opinion, in terms of talent, Fernando Alonso, even in his final season in 2018, he was up there with Sebastian Vettel. He was up there with Lewis Hamilton in terms of talent, but he never had the car. Maybe that was partly McLaren's fault, Honda's fault, his fault, whatever. But it's not like he just dropped off the face of the earth in terms of talent and he wasn't good enough for Formula One. So he's coming back very hungry. Again, he's won, Le Mans back to back in the space that he's been out of Formula One. So he's still clearly very sharp. So he's got a lot to prove. He wants to prove that he's not just some driver who wants to, drop off the face of the earth in 2018 and, be forgotten about as just, some 2-time world champion. He wants to be, remembered as a really top driver. And he still obviously wants to prove that he's up there with the likes of, Hamilton, Leclerc, Verstappen, but it's all about if he has the equipment to do it. That's the thing with Fernando. I've always had trust in his driving talent, but it's the car that he is given and the kind of team dynamic that he has around him. But I do think that Fernando Alonso still in his heart has a lot to prove inside himself.
Yeah, and I've got like 2 more questions for you, or 2 more topics rather. The first one, I would love your opinion on Stefano Domenicali taking hold of Formula One.
Yeah, ex-Ferrari man, of course, and then went off to work with Lamborghini, actually, in terms of the road car side. So, yeah, Stefano, he's a decent guy. He was a decent team principal as well, always very honest, always kind of very open as well. So that's quite good. But at the same time, he's stepping into a really tricky situation with where F1 is right now, especially with Honda. He's going to have to make a lot of big decisions, being in charge of Formula One. So I'm a fan of Stefano Domenicali. He's done a good job at both Ferrari. Obviously, not perfect job. He got fired in the end of 2014, but we just forget about that.
Did he actually get fired?
Yeah, well, he stepped down, from Ferrari and got replaced the day after. So I think the writing was on the wall, to be fair, in 2014. It wasn't good. It was a horrible season for them. But in the end, I feel like he knows Formula One very well. He knows Ferrari. It's just that Ferrari link that kind of I have a bit of an issue with. But in the end, I think we have to judge him in terms of what he does. We still don't know. He might be incredible. So it's very difficult to judge him now in terms of what he's done in the past. But yeah, certainly I think he needs time, and I think he'll do a good job in the end anyway.
Yeah, and yeah, I totally agree with you in terms of the Ferrari link. I'm very skeptical about it actually, but at the end of the day, he's had a number of years out. But what I don't understand is that how comes Ferrari can Vettel, like how comes they can kick up a fuss about and block Toto Wolff potentially going into that role, but Mercedes can't do the Dominicali.
Yeah, the whole Ferrari aspect is kind of funny actually, because obviously Domenicali now going to be in charge of Formula One, and Jean Todt, who of course was the team principal when Michael Schumacher was winning his races, he's in charge of the FIA. So yeah, it's just Ferrari all over the place. But again, it's easy to judge him on the fact that he was at Ferrari previously, and that it's always just red flags because Ferrari have so much power in Formula One. And to be fair, Stefano Domenicali, he knows what it's like. He's been right at the top with Ferrari. He knows exactly what it's like to kind of bargain with the other teams and talk to Formula One. So he knows what it's all about. And again, I'm going to judge him in terms of what he does in the future, not where he's been in the past. But yeah, those Ferrari links, they're just it's always someone from Ferrari, isn't it? It's just there's always
Yeah,
someone that's
yeah,
ex-Ferrari, which I think is sometimes
yeah,
a red flag because they do get away with more than anyone else. But again, he needs to. I think he's going to be super impartial. To be fair, I mean, at the end of the day, he's not working for Ferrari. He's going to work for Formula One, and is going to be judged very harshly. So he needs to have a lot of integrity for sure. So yeah, we'll see again.
and I've got a couple of questions actually what come to my mind just before we finish off. But Lance Stroll, Lance Stroll is getting a lot of stick from has been getting a lot of stick from our friend Josh Ravel, and I've been giving him a lot of stick as well. But do you think that and a lot of other people actually have given him a lot of stick, not just me and Josh, but do you think that's his last performance actually did anything to silence the critics?
I think it did, yeah. The thing with Lance Stroll in 2020 is he has took a big jump up, and he's definitely improved, and I think he's done a great job so far up against Sergio Perez. And I do think that Lance is a better driver than a lot of people say, but at the same time, I'm one of those that's not getting too carried away. He's not going to be, in my opinion, a future world champion. I haven't seen that yet. I don't think that's the thing. I don't feel like Lance Stroll, in my opinion, is either under or overrated. He's just right there. He's right in the middle. He's right. He's a really great midfield driver. On his day, he is capable of podiums and now pole positions as well. So he is a solid driver. He's not, horrible like some people say. I think he's a decent driver, but I still wouldn't put him up there with the likes of even someone like Pierre Gasly. To be honest, I feel like he's just that middle of the road. He's like a 5 or 6
Yeah.
out of 10 driver. But at the end of the day, he's still doing a great job. He's still young. He's still going to keep on improving. How is he going to face up against Sebastian Vettel next year? That's going to be very interesting. I think that could be an amazing
Yeah.
partnership. And yeah, I mean, could you imagine if he beats Vettel in 2021? That's going to definitely. I mean, what are people going to say? What are people going to say about that? So
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
overall, I feel like Lance is. I feel like he
yeah.
has silenced a lot of critics, and he's a really good driver.
I mean, my worry for Sebastian Vettel is he allowed? Is he going to be allowed to win or be in front of so Lance Stroll? Because obviously Lawrence is Lance's dad. I I mean I'm absolutely happy with the fact that Lawrence bought the team, but I'm sort of having a bit of a bigger issue with the fact that he put his son into that team because for two reasons really. I can't see uh, Lance ever progressing, you know, because
Yeah.
because can I mean, let's say he's winning 5 races next season, for example, and becoming and all of a sudden Ferrari or Mercedes would want him. I'm a bit worried for his career because of his dad actually owning the team.
Yeah, I feel like with Lance, I feel like you're bang on there. The one, and I've had this worry as well in terms of what is Lance's career outside of his dad's team. Do you know what I mean? Like, if he wants to move up, what about Aston Martin aren't doing as well, and there's opportunities further up the grid? Are other teams really going to consider him? Is his future so tied to his dad's team that he's never going to leave his dad's team? He's always going to be there. He's never going to be his own man. He's never going to go to another team. That is something I've genuinely thought about because, yeah, what is his future in F1? Again, as I said, he's a solid driver, not like outstanding. He's a good midfield driver. But what happens if he wants to move up? What happens if he improves? Is someone else going to take Lance Stroll off the back of him? Kind of yes, being bought a seat. Like at the end of the day, he's definitely deserved that seat, and he's obviously good enough. But it still doesn't feel right, that he basically had a team bought for him. And what happens outside of that team? What's his future in Formula One in 5, 6 years? Is his time limited to Aston Martin's history? So yeah, there's a lot of questions around that. And that's why it just feels so bad. He's a good driver and he's a good guy as well. I've never really, he doesn't do anything bad, but there's always that thing around his dad, buying the team for him. So
and he's openly said that as well.
He's very real about it. He's not shying away from it. He understands exactly what's going on. He understands what people think. But at the end of the day, he can only do the best job that he can, and he's definitely doing that. Maybe not as good. Obviously, he's not as good as Sergio Perez, but he's still very young, so he still has time to develop. But it's that worry. What's his future outside of his dad's team?
Yeah, but that brings me on to another point, and this begs the question: why did he get rid of Sergio Perez and not his son?
Well, at the end of the day, he bought the team for his son, so you can't you can't just invest hundreds of millions of pounds into buying a team for your son and then kick him out like 2 years later. So Lance was always going to stay there. If it came down to Sergio Perez over Lance Stroll, it was always going to be Lance. Let's be honest, and there's no surprise. I feel like Sergio Perez and Sebastian Vettel, that would have been an amazing lineup. But even so, again, I don't want to kind of degrade Lance too much. He is a good driver, and I feel like him and Vettel will make a really decent partnership. They're quite chilled characters, so there's not going to be too much like friction or anything like that. But yeah, it just feels really bad that Sergio Perez is the one that's dropped. He saved the team. He's been so loyal to them. So it's just a horrible thing. I wanted Sebastian Vettel to get a seat. When he got kicked out of Ferrari, I didn't want to see him leave, and I was so happy to see him get a seat. But I was so frustrated to see that it came at the cost of Sergio Perez being dropped, even though he definitely didn't deserve it. But I also didn't want to see Lance Stroll being dropped because he's been doing a good job as well. So yeah, it's a lose kind of win-win-win situation in all those different scenarios.
So yeah. Finally, question, final topic. If you had to put your finger on, if you was a team, if you was to buy a team, right, called Aldas F1, right? Who would you put in as team principal, and why, obviously? Yeah. And who would you get as the two drivers? And also, before you answer that, and if you have one kid offering you 50 million, would you be swayed by that choice?
Well, first of all, with the team thing, as far as team principal, I feel like everyone's just going to say Toto Wolff. Do you know what I mean? I'm actually going to go with Andreas Seidel. I feel like, just something a little bit different. Don't get me wrong. Toto Wolff is doing an amazing job, but I'm going to go with Andreas Seidel as the team principal because he's been doing a great job both in and outside of Formula One. He's done a really good job at McLaren since he's come in 2020. And as far as my two drivers, I've got to back Lewis Hamilton. He's just got to be there. And in terms of my second driver, I'm going to go with Daniel Ricciardo. I'm going to go with Lewis Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo as a driver partnership. I feel like not only are they crazy quick, not only are they championship quality, obviously in the case of Lewis Hamilton, 7-time championship quality, but I feel like they would make a great partnership. So yeah. And wait, what was the last part of that question?
So you wouldn't be swayed if Nikita Mazepin is there to offering you 50 million or something.
No, I'm good. No, it's fine. I'm gonna stick it. Forget the money. Take it away.
Okay, and the very final question: who do you think is the greatest, Michael Schumacher or Lewis Hamilton? If you had to choose one.
Well, I think I actually already mentioned it earlier. It is Lewis Hamilton. He is, in my opinion, the greatest of all time. Especially since 2016. 2017, I think after that, he just went up another level. His prime. It's just flawless. Like, what is Lewis Hamilton? Find me one thing about Lewis Hamilton, especially since 2017, that is wrong, that he doesn't do as well. He's amazing in qualifying. He's amazing in the races. His race IQ is just off the charts. He just knows everything about Formula One. He understands the weather, the tires. He works really well with his team. He's beaten off Sebastian Vettel in a fair fight. He's beaten off his teammate in multiple times. He is just bulletproof, and he's just the greatest of all time, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, as I said, I'm a massive Michael Schumacher fan, right? And I used to when I was a kid, I used to have Michael Schumacher bed linen, right? The you know. So I'm a massive Michael Schumacher fan, but I've always said that regardless of whether you love or hate Lewis Hamilton, I mean, you I don't hate any driver, but you've got to respect what he's done, and I genuinely think that the people that don't, I genuinely think that people need to give him more credit for what he gets, because I think he's not going to be in Formula One for too much longer, and I think people just not giving him as much credit as he deserves.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what anyone says about him. It's on track. There is just he deserves a lot more respect than a lot of people are giving him, because he's just been phenomenal, and not just in Mercedes. People talk about the Mercedes domination, the Mercedes years. He's only racing against himself. Even at McLaren, he was starting to show that ability. He was starting. He came in his first year and beat Fernando Alonso, the defending two-time world champion. And from there, everyone saw that he was special. It's just very convenient for people to say now that he's winning only because he's in a Mercedes, but he's been doing this his entire year. But he definitely got very lucky. Being in a good car, like everyone, every single multi-world champion has been lucky to be in a good car. But you still need to go out there and you still need to win, and that is exactly what he does.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to wrap up this episode, unless you've got any more to say about this.
No, that's it. I think the final word on Lewis Hamilton there, I think it's a great way to end off.
And I'm very grateful to you to coming on. I mean, we've known each other for a long time. We've been following each other for a long time. I love your content. I really do. Especially the rise and forward episodes. I really love your content. And if you haven't already, I leave a link in the description down below to Aldas's channel. But hopefully I can get some of Aldas's subscribers to subscribe to my channel, because I'm only about 180 odd subscribers away from the big 1K. So
yeah, I'll give you a shout out. Don't worry, for sure. Gonna send a bunch over.
So we can that would make my day. So cheers for coming on. I hope you enjoyed it.
I did, yeah. Thank you for having me on again. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, thank you.
Let me know when I can do a return on your channel. So
for sure.
So yeah. So all the best, Aldas. See you later.
See you later.